Hello everybody, this is Jamieson, author of the best-selling books Wealth Without Stocks or Mutual Funds and the Perpetual Wealth System. Welcome. Today we want to go over a very specifically designed annuity. Now in another video you can see basically us talk about the three different kinds of annuities and basic setup of an annuity. This video is a little bit more advanced because we're going to drill down into one specific kind of annuity, and that annuity is called a fixed indexed annuity. So what does that mean? Well, a fixed indexed annuity at its core, and there's all kinds of variations of how they work, but number one is you can't lose money based upon the stock market or based upon any kind of market conditions. So your principal balance is fixed. It cannot go backwards for market losses. The index part means that it's going to be tracking an index. Now what kind of index is going to depend on the product, the company, depend on the client, what's most important to them, how long is this going to be for, performance history, all kinds of things. But for this example, you're going to pick an index. Let's say it's the S&P 500. All right? And you're going to track that index. And when the index goes up, your money's going to go up in some kind of proportion to that index. And when the index goes down, you don't lose any money. And at the end of the video, I'm going to draw out a stock chart, basically, to show you what happens to your money. All right, first thing, there's some terms you need to understand. First term is called a cap. What does that mean? Let's say you're following the S&P 500. Your annuity is tracking that. And inside your contract, you have a cap that you can't make, let's say, any more than 4%. They're guarantee you won't lose any money, but you can't make any more than 4%. And that year, the S&P 500 is 10%. Your money is only going to participate in 4% of that in that kind of a contract. It's called a cap. So you're limited to how much your upside is. There's also caps on other products you'll hear on downsides. This one is capped as far as the downside at the principal balance. You can't lose any money based on market performance inside this account, which is why it's so popular. Number two is a spread. What does a spread mean? A spread means what the difference is between how much your index makes and how much you'll be credited. Okay? So let's just say, for the sake of example, the index you're going to be tracking is the S&P 500, and the contract you have with this carrier means it says it's uncapped, meaning the S&P 500 gets 10%, you could get 10% minus whatever the spread is. So let's say it's a 2-point spread, 2% spread for the sake of example. So that S&P 500 does 10%. You get credited the 10%, but no, minus the 2% spread, and your funds get credited 8% that particular year. Okay? Participation rate. This goes back to the index, and that S&P 500, what's the percentage you might participate in? Now most of the contracts, when you start off, they'll say you have 100% participation. So again, the S&P 500 goes up 10%. If you're under 100% participation, you participate in all of that upside minus whatever spread there might be. Also could be where they say, okay, well, you're only at a 50% participation rate or a 70%. So the index goes up 10%, you only participate, your participation rate is 50%, which means your money only gets credited 5%. And if there is any kind of a spread, generally when there's participation rates less, the spreads are a lot less too. But if there's any kind of spread, that would come off. So it's important to understand what's my participation rate and how long is that guaranteed for, and what's my minimum participation rate guarantee. Okay, those are things you need to talk to your financial advisor. If we can help, we do a lot of that. We work with people from all over the country. Just questions you got to make sure that you ask so you can understand it. There's also built into these things, you can have, usually for a fee, not always, but most of the time for a fee, what's called an income rider. The income rider is generally going to operate a little bit different than the actual cash. So here's how this might work. This is your cash portion of the contract, and I'm just going to say you rolled over. You can do, by the way, tax-free, penalty-free rollovers. You have an old 401k or you have an IRA. You can use qualified money with these accounts. So you roll over $100,000, and you start off tracking the S&P 500. All right? You also, let's say for the sake of example, you also buy an income rider. It's a lifetime income rider, and what that means is when you decide to take income out of this particular program, they're going to guarantee you, they're going to pay you that income for the rest of your life. Now, there's percentages on how much they're going to pay you. It's based on how much this grows to and a percentage of that. But whatever the specific contract says, let's just say it's 5%, they're going to pay you 5% of whatever this figure ends up being for the rest of your life, no matter how long you live. You can also set it up where it's on 2 lives, so it will be the rest of your life and your spouse's life. They will pay you that amount of income, regardless now of what happens to the underlying cash. So if you live a long time and the underlying cash gets spent through, that's not great, but with an income rider, they still have to pay you the income amount. Okay? So the cash is going to do this. Let's say you're at 100% participation rate and with a 2% spread. And the first year, the S&P 500 does 10%. There's a 2% spread. So you get credited 8%. Some of these programs actually have bonuses as well. They might give you a 5 or 8% bonus just for rolling the money over. This particular example, we don't have a bonus. Right? So now you've got $108,000 in there. On the other side, you've got your lifetime income rider. And that, for the sake of example, let's say that is guaranteed to go up every year at 6% no matter what. So your cash sometimes won't go up. So let's say in year 2, you've got $108,000 in there, but the market went down 20%. You don't lose any money. You don't gain any cash that year. You roll over and you reset. We do want to talk about a reset before I'm done. Make a note for myself. So your money slides over, stays even. Over here, your first year it went up 6%. Your lifetime income rider that next year went up 6%. All right, so the next year, let's say that the index was down here because it went down. You start tracking it from that new figure, and that next year it went up 8%. Let's say there's a 2% spread, so you got credited 6% over there. On this side, you have that 6% guarantee. It also went up another 6%. So what you start to see happen here is your actual cash, the stock chart on it kind of looks like a stairway. It's either going up or it's staying flat. Going up, staying flat. Whereas your income rider is more of a compounding curve straight up, and it just depends on what kind of a contract it is and how much it's getting credited. But you can see that if you put in $100,000, and let's say at the end of 10 years, you're going to have a bigger figure over here, generally, than you will over here. Why? Because this never had a year where it stayed even. This might have had several years in that 10 years where it did stay even. So for our example, let's just say after 10 years, there's $160,000 of cash, but maybe you've got a $220,000 lifetime income rider. Let's say it's retirement time, and you want to start using these funds as an income stream. And the life insurance carrier says, okay, we'll pay you 5% of this figure. So would you rather have 5% of $160,000 sent to you, or 5% of $220,000 sent to you? This isn't hard. We all want the 5% of the $220 if those are our two choices. Now they will pay us that 5% of the $220, which is what, I don't know, 10.5, something like that. They'll pay us the $10,500 for the rest of your life, even if you eventually spend through the cash and the cash goes to zero. They will still pay you that lifetime income amount. That can make you sleep good at night. All right? There's also variations on the income rider where sometimes its guarantee is less, but it might also participate in an index that year. So if the guarantee is maybe 3, but you also participate in the up years of your cash, might turn out to be a better deal. Nobody really knows. So it's going to be based on what you're trying to accomplish. Some people want to try to shoot for a little bit extra income, so they like the variable. They like the fixed with the variable on top, but they still can't lose money. Some people say, you know what? I like that. I like that 6% compounded year after year. I've got 8 years, I've got 10 years, I've got 15 years before I'm going to retire. That can work out to be a lot of money. Meanwhile, you cannot lose any money when the market goes down. You might not make any money in your actual cash, okay? But your lifetime income rider still makes money every year. Now there's going to be a fee for that lifetime income rider. Almost always. There are some products that don't have it. But for the solid income riders that do really well, there's usually a fee. Okay? So that's the fixed compounding lifetime income rider. The one I mentioned is fixed plus index. Okay, so that year, instead of going up 6, the guarantee, let's say, is 4. But then there's no market gains that year, so you only got 4% credited. The next year, there was an 8% credit plus the 4. Your income rider did 12% that year. So there's going to be some variations, even inside of fixed indexed annuities, all kinds of different programs. But this gives you a pretty good idea of, okay, I'm starting to get the gist of this. You don't have to be an expert at it, but we do want you to be educated. We're a financial education company first, and then if people say, hey, I think this guy's got some things to offer, we think they do some things differently, because we really do. When you look at overall, if you look at all these videos we have, even a portion of, I think you'll be pleased of what we bring to the table that an average finance. If you're looking for pie charts and predictions, folks, we're not it. If you're looking for average rates of return and what a myth that is, we have videos on that, we're not it. But if you're looking for cutting edge information for wealth creation, wealth preservation, really unique programs, small business programs, we're it. So I want to thank you for joining us today. Make sure you register at our website. Go to wealthwithoutstocks.com. You can watch presentations there. You can get free reports and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You're here anyways. Subscribe. When we put out new videos, you'll find out right away. Again, this is John Jamieson, author of Wealth Without Stocks for Mutual Funds and the Perpetual Wealth System. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you on another video real soon. Bye-bye now.